So we welcome back Sarah and Sandra from HCPG to the treatment room for again another special with these two lovely ladies talking around the use of chaperones. So before we get stuck into the nitty gritty, because we've got some really good, insightful questions and discussion points around, do you want to just tell us a little bit about HCPG and the mission that you're both on?
Hi, so Sarah and I are HCPG. We're two physios by background, and we set the business up because we found there was a lot of unconscious incompetence. Physios around, they didn't know what they knew about the standards and regulations, and so we're here really to try and make it simple, to make it enjoyable, and to help people work their way through a scenario where they come up for investigation, the information, and they can show that they're evidencing they meet the standard processes that should be there.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I can generally say from spending some good time and some good conversations, and if you haven't heard of this before of these guys, then please do check out the lone working one, which we've done before, and also some of the videos that we've got attached to our Academy Lite. So we're going to let's get straight in. So chaperones, really good topic. But what is one? What is a chaperone?
Very good question. A chaperone is an independent third-party person who understands what it is to be a chaperone. So they've had to have had training in it. So that can be somebody that is medically trained or somebody that's undergone chaperone training. So it's an independent third-party person, adult, who is there for the patient and for the physio as a independent witness of what occurs. It has to be an adult. Children cannot be chaperones.
So just for the listeners, where would somebody go and be trained? So if they were to listen out, how would you?
So yeah, there are courses that you can go on.
Yeah.
So if you just Google chaperone training, there are courses that you can do.
Fantastic. And again, it's probably some links that we can be sticking into this for anyone that's interested and wants to know more around that. So again, my question is, so now we know who can be a chaperone?
So who can be a chaperone? So if we're talking about physios, another physio can be a chaperone.
Okay.
A physio assistant. You can use, if you've got receptionists, you can use your receptionist, providing they've undergone the training.
Okay.
So yeah, that's as long as they've had the training, then anybody can be a chaperone.
Okay. So especially in the private world, where a lot of, I spend most of my kind of work and our listeners are in that private practice thing, a lot they're going to say they're going to bring family members. It's quite often, isn't it, that people who probably need a bit of support, or we're talking around use of chaperones, they're going to bring a family member. So what's the role that families play or family members play?
Families can certainly come along to support the patient if the patient wants them to come. It has to be at the patient's request. So they can come along in a supportive role. Okay. If you want to have a formal chaperone, that has to be somebody, can't be a family member. It has to be somebody that's impartial. Okay, so family members come along just in a supportive role. Okay.
So, and then I guess my question would be, how do we get to the point of people know one, or how do we request one? So if you are a customer, and right.
So this is part of your patient information leaflet that you send out to your patients before they even set foot in your clinic. So they know what to expect, which is part of the informed consent process. So they know that they may need to undress, they know they can ask questions, they know they can refuse treatment, and they should also know that they can request a chaperone if they want one. So most physios who are sole practitioners are working alone, don't have a chaperone on tap, which is why they need to be sure that if they need a chaperone, they need to let the physio know, so the physio can then obtain one. Sometimes physios will work with a peer and will say, well, I'll be your chaperone if you'll be my chaperone. That can work. Or they may have a receptionist that they can train up. But it's if the patient comes along and sits in the waiting room, goes, well, I see I can have a chaperone, I'd like one. and you say, well, actually, I don't have one at the moment, but I can certainly rebook you and we can make sure that we get a chaperone for you then. However, if you decide that this is something you can't offer because you're too small a practice or it's going to be too difficult for you, then that's fine, but you have to make sure that you let the patients know that there is no chaperone service. And if somebody does want one, that you refer them on to a bigger clinic where they can have one.
I think that's a really good point. So around that, so if you are listening, then, you know, and this is where we align both of our organizations, because I know one of the things that you're very passionate about, both of you, is, and you call it the informed consent and all the things, that you're actually contacting the patient before they arrive in your clinic. Yeah. Now, I call this a pre-arrival stage of our 10-step process. Yeah. And I think it's an absolute, you know, and it's when done well. And when I listen to you two, I think, oh my God, we are so much on the same wavelength with this. And I think it's really important. So what we're saying, just for a bit of clarity then, is that it's part of our informed consent as a healthcare professional that we have to be offering this to our customers. That's correct, isn't it? Am I saying? So absolutely. You've got to be doing that. But if you cannot offer one, then also you need to make that clear so that we then, a customer or patient, whatever you want to choose to call them, they are aware of that, so that they've then got a choice that they could actually might have to rebook at another clinic that could provide that for them.
Exactly.
And we're saying
there, you've raised a very good point, Andy. It's part of the process, but as Sarah mentioned, it's very useful to have it in the patient information leaflet, or if you're sending out literature to a patient before their initial assessment, that it's in there and it says that, you know, we need advance notice of the chaperone, or we cannot offer chaperone. The chaperone is needed, and then it has your process in there. So it's really important that it's documented as well, and clearly documented, so that patients have been given the opportunity before they come into the room and just see the notice that's offering a chaperone.
So I totally agree, and I think it's what, you know, and hopefully people listening, if you're not doing this, then please get this done and get it done well, or at least start to do it in a process. And if not, then we will certainly have been putting you in touch with these two ladies of how you can reach them and get in contact with them. So I guess my curiosity is, within that, do you think we need to, so people are now thinking, gosh, I probably don't do this, or probably I need to re-look at this and review this. How do we, the information that we're giving to our customers, patients, do we need to clarify, do you think, what is a chaperone within that, so that people go, well, I'll bring my mum, or I'll bring a family member, that actually what we're saying is that it's got to be a professional that actually, because again, when we look at the word chaperone, you know, I would assume that someone would go in, if it's you know, oh, I'll just bring my husband with me, he can come along and chaperone me because he does everything for me. But what we're actually saying is, as a family member, he can be there for support, but actually in the official lines of a chaperone, then he actually isn't qualified unless he is a healthcare professional. Or is that, can he be a family member and a healthcare professional?
No, because he's not impartial.
Okay, so again, this is something which, you know, is really, really important to understand, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's a really good point, Andy, and needs to be clarity in that information leaflet that they're very welcome to bring their family member, but they're only in the form of support, and a chaperone is an independent, impartial person.
And they need to remember, Andy, as well, if you bring a family member for support, then we will, you know, you need to be checking that you have the patient's consent for that family member to be there. They don't just say, oh, they're coming in, and you don't check with the patient that they're happy that that person hasn't come along, and they don't really want them there, but they can't say. So there's that whole piece, you know, chaperoning fits in very well, as you said, to the whole informed consent process.
No, and I think that's a really massive point, isn't it? And, you know, my curiosity to listeners is, how good are we at challenging that? You know, if someone naturally does bring, you know, I'm going to make a very stereotypical comment, so I apologize to both of you, but, you know, a male wants to bring his wife to, or husband wants to bring his wife to an appointment. I wonder what they say. Are they going to, you know, it's one of those things. Well, actually, like you've said, legally, they've got to be the wife might then have to consent for a husband to be in the room with them. Is that correct? Am I reading that?
Yeah, you need to just make a documentation. You need to put something in your notes about, I've asked the patient if they wish to have this person, and it's probably better to do it out of earshot of the other one, because if they're asked in front of it, of course they're going to say yes.
Yeah,
because you don't know what's going on in the home life.
And I think it's a really important point, this, isn't it? That, because, I've always had the analogy that we don't treat John's knee, we treat John.
Yes.
And actually what we don't know is what's going on in somebody's world. And actually the influence of that, the patient's world, the customer's world, could be influenced by the person supporting them, if we use that inverted commas thing as well, couldn't we? So that's the importance why we're talking about this, why it's important that we need an independent chaperone to this, so to make sure the health and well-being, which as healthcare professionals we need to be.
Yeah.
So the other thing that comes around with me is about interpretation. So obviously, not everybody, where I live in the Northwest, we're very multicultural, and there's always an argument with having a Liverpudlian accent, that it's something that often get accused of. I need an interpreter, but there are going to be occasions, isn't there, of where customers, patients are going to come into clinics, and obviously English isn't their first language. So how do we handle that?
Again, it's something that you need to have as part of your informed consent process and an awareness before someone comes in, because people, again, they need to realise that for an interpreter, again, you can't use a family member, because you can imagine the scenario. You don't understand that language, and you don't know what that family member is handing on to your patient, client, customer. And you don't know what they're telling them. They could be telling them something completely different and asking them some completely different to what you want to know, because they might not have English as the first language either. Or it may just be they don't agree with the questions that you're asking, because there may be a cultural issue. We don't know that.
Okay.
So if you're going to have an interpreter, then again, it has to be planned in advance, which is why it needs to be in that patient info leaflet, that introductory email. And there are sources that you can use, and we'll send you a list of links. There's various lines. There's, you can sometimes you can arrange them with the GP. Some of the GPs have a list of people that they use for interpretation services. Sometimes a local hospital will have people who are happy to volunteer to be interpreters and are recognised. Or there are various lines and services that you can use, that you can actually purchase. So we'll send you a link of those, but the important thing is it can't be a family member for the reasons that we've said. You need to know that it's again, like a chaperone, it's an impartial person who is passing on the questions that you've asked and giving directly back the answers from that individual.
And I think it's a really, really important point that we're raising here with both of these, isn't it? That, I'll be honest, I wonder, and I'd be curious when people are listening to this, who will contact us and say, oh my gosh, I don't do that. Okay, which is what, for me, what you guys, the mission that you both are on is brilliant, because, I can probably say, this isn't a place where we name names, but I can also say a lot of people that I know who won't be doing this very, very well. But now we're shining a light on it. It gives everybody an opportunity to up the game, to improve, and actually to make these changes. And, like you said, Sandra, what we'll do is, we'll add the links. So in the podcast notes, we'll put the links in to here, and we'll also put the links so you two can, and so the listeners can then obviously contact yourselves about how to do this well and what to make sure they are being compliant, because these are all in our standards, aren't they? Proficiency.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So these, as
a healthcare, no, we've not made these up. These are
and that's what I'm trying to say.
It's not the Sarah and Sandra show.
No.
It's a wonderful show if it was, but actually what we're saying, what we are saying is, this is what we sign up to as healthcare professionals, to say we do these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a cost implication, which a lot of physios ask us about. And if you have to get a chaperone and use interpreter service, but that's something you need to decide yourself within your clinic, with you as a practitioner. Some people say to us, can I pass that cost on to the patient? Do I have to just suck up that cost? So that's something that you need to think about and decide yourself how you want to do it. You can't not do it just because you decide that it's something that it's going to be too expensive.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's about you as a business making a choice.
Yeah.
But then you've got to give that choice. Also, you've got to inform your clients, customers, patients of the choice that you're making, so that, for example, that we don't have chaperones here, so they're aware, so they might have to go somewhere else and not come to you. Is that what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but again, that's the business is all about choice, isn't it? And you know, it's about making good decisions. But it could also be the place of where if no one else has them around you, and everyone then does come to you. I wonder, I mean, off the cuff of the line of questions, but I wonder how many patients understand that they've got the right to a chaperone, do we think?
Every patient should be aware, because they should have been made aware as part of the informed consent process.
Yeah, okay.
But how many actually know? That'd be quite surprising. Because I think the scenario you said, how many don't realise until they see that notice up in reception?
Yeah.
And then it's almost too late then, because it isn't something, unless you know you're a big practice and you're very multicultural with your staff, that you're likely to have someone there that's trained that you can use, either in the language or from the chaperone perspective.
No, I totally agree. So what solutions, if we were to say, like, you know, you've got this business owners listening now thinking, oh my gosh, hold on a minute, how am I going to do this? How am I going to put in, you know, I'm only a small clinic. What solutions can we put in place? I know we've talked around, we can use online services, and you're talking about before, you know, what other solutions could people be who are probably now might be sat panicking listening to this while walking the dog thinking, oh my gosh?
No, it could be, as we said, it could be you can contact your local hospital and they may have volunteer chaperones.
Okay.
Most hospitals have a list of the languages that are spoken by staff in the hospital or by volunteers. It could be that if you contact some of your other practices, they may have a service they're prepared to share a cost for you. It could be you work with a peer, and so you could act as a chaperone for each other, because they're not requested very often, but you need to have something in place or make a decision that you're not going to offer them, and then make that very, you know, be transparent about it. You know, you need to offer this service. It's no good thinking I haven't got one, so I'll pretend it doesn't exist. In the standards and regulations, you need to offer it. So it's important that it's there. Okay.
I think it's a really, really good, valid point. And I think there's lots for us all to think about, isn't there? So do you want to just tell the listeners, so this is your month, this is what you'll be talking about all month. There's going to be loads of information that the two of you put out on a regular basis. How can people find out more about where more of this information is, or about more how they can get hold of either of you?
Do you want to do that? Because I'm aware my internet signal is playing up frustratingly. So do you want to say about our newsletter and blogs and tip of the week, etc.?
Yeah. So our website is www.hcpg.co.uk. So everything is on there. How to contact us? You can book a call with us, free call. We'd love to chat to you if you've got any questions. We also have a newsletter that you can sign up to that comes out every month with all the latest information on it. We have blogs, we have articles, and we have a store as well through our website, so that if you want to get a chaperone policy or any other policy, you can buy it directly. Every policy that we sell always comes with a call from us. We never just sell a policy. We really want you to understand it and be able to embed it into your practice. It's not just a tick box exercise of, oh, I've got all my policies, they all sit on that shelf. I don't really know what they are, but I've got them.
Yeah, and I can totally vouch that goes against everything that both of you strive for, isn't it? You know, one of the things that, you know, you live and breathe exactly what you talk, and that's one of the things that I love talking to both of you, is you know your topic inside out, but also that you're generally here to help. And I think if there are people listening and you are feeling daunted by this, then I can generally say, just pick up the phone or send these to an email, and they will be incredibly helpful to put you back on track. And I think, is it fair to say you're both non-judgmental as well? So
we're very non-judgmental.
Absolutely.
We're really here to support. We're passionate about physio and about helping physios and helping therapists. And, you know, we want to make our profession the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'll totally again support. I think definitely that, look, if you're sat here and a bit embarrassed by listening, this might be the second one you've listened to now and gone, gosh, I haven't got this either, then, you know, don't. I think one of the things I can generally say is do reach out. I think they're both very judgmental and they are here to support. and
we've also got a course on setting up in private practice coming up. So if anybody wants to come on that, it's a Saturday morning.
We'll get that link. We'll get that link added below as well. So again, that we can be driving people to that, and we'll put that in our social media and our newsletters as well.
And if people follow us, Andy, on social media, then you'll see every month the theme. We have a tip of the week, a little reminder around that tip. So follow us on social media, you'll see it in there as well. So there's just a whole month full of things about the theme.
And I think that's brilliant about the work you guys are doing, is you're just shining the light on areas of which, unfortunately, are probably the things that people want to spend time on their marketing and social media because that's the cool stuff and the fun stuff. But actually, there's a lot of things as healthcare professionals we have to do, and we have to do well. And I think one of the things you both do very, very well is shine lights on that to keep us informed in the things that we should be doing really well.
It's always good to chat to you, Andy.
No, thank you both incredibly much. I look forward to our next conversation, but for now, thanks very much. And please, listeners, make sure that you do follow HCPG and what Sarah and Sandra are doing. Take care and speak to you all soon.